Anesthesiologists, what are the best things people have said under the gas? My 9 years/old son going under for his MRI that would show if he would need his right leg amputated at the hip. Just as he slipped under, "I'm a brave boy, I'm a brave boy." Damn, broke me then, breaks me now typing this. What a kid. I had a colonoscopy just last month and the lady who administered the propofol and I had a brief conversation like this: "Me, how long is that gonna take to kick in?" Her, "You'll be out in less than 10. I always win." With a big grin on her face, I started to feel it immediately after that and followed with, "You'll never take me down." I then recall laughing like a maniac, followed by nothing. I think her quip about always winning and obviously the propofol got me good, haha. I was semi-awake during a hand surgery. The only person I could see was the anesthesiologist. I remember telling him some jokes while I lay there. Then I remember hearing the doctor chuckle on the other side of the curtain, followed by, "Would you put her the fuck out?" Then blackness. I often have wondered if my hand would work better now if I weren't so damn hilarious. Not an anesthesiologist but was a tech. Had a patient wake up violently. When he came to, he said, "Sorry, I thought I was a shark." Happened today. Patient has a broken ankle fixed and was coming out of anesthesia when he was being wheeled out. The anesthesiologist accidentally hit the door frame on the way out. Patient, "Did you just do surgery on my leg?" Anesthesiologist, "Yes, you had surgery and are waking up from it." Patient, "Then why are you running into things?" Thank you for the gold and silver, strangers. Instead of giving gold, there's plenty of charities out there that could use the money. Not an anesthesiologist but my tight-laced, extremely Christian great-grandma apparently asked who the freak is that ugly son of a bitch while she was waking up from a surgery. The person she was referring to? Her preacher who stopped by to check up on her. She never lived that one down. The story was even told at her funeral. She was kinda strict but she was a great lady with a great sense of humor. Not gas, but right after giving midazolam I had a patient say, "Wow, this feels like the 70s, and have had quite a few old men ask me out on a date before passing out a few seconds later." When I came out of surgery at 14 I told everyone I was fine and just felt like a Gatorade. Mom got it for me, opened the lid and handed it over. I took it and maintaining direct eye contact with her I tipped it upside down nowhere near my mouth. Got Gatorade all over me and was super confused. That's where my memory ends. Mom tells me after looking briefly confused I just shrugged and settled back down to fall asleep. I had surgery last year and when waking up they had a communal room where around 7 to 8 people would all be waking up at the same time before being sent to individual rooms for some reason. I remember waking up slowly and hearing someone else being asked if they wanted some water. For some reason this really excited me. Like, there was nothing more in the entire world I wanted than to be asked if I wanted water. I practically yelled or as much as I could yell in that state, "Hey, ask me if I want water," and I'm pretty sure it came out in a "let me speak to your manager" tone, but I was just so excited about the water. My anesthesiologist tried to calm me down with a joke when I was a little kid being put under. My mom later told me about how I apparently commented on the joke being not at all funny and how I hoped he was more talented as a doctor. Anesthesiologist here. I was once transporting a patient to the ICU after surgery, in which he got some ketamine, and he was rocking out the entire way there with his air guitar. I was coming out of general anesthesia after a surgery to repair a broken leg. I woke up in my room with about a dozen very caring, kind friends and relatives who had all come to see that I was okay. I looked around, saw everyone giving shits about me, said, "Freak" this loudly and very clearly, and went right back to sleep. My friends thought it was hilarious. My mom was mortified. Backstory: I have epilepsy and a vagal nerve stimulator to control the seizures. It works wonders. From 3 to 4 seizures a week to almost none a year. I went in for the replacement of my device. Going under I looked at my mother and started laughing hysterically. She asked what was funny. I said she had horns. And as I was coming out of all the drugs the nurse was kind of a jackass to me so I said, "Oh man, the next time I puke I'm gonna puke on you." I did. He said, "Man, your aim is good, I'm not even mad at you." Dude Silver. Thank you whoever you are, that's awesome. I'm an anesthesiologist. I was recently taking care of a 17-year-old kid and he looks at me and says, "Dude, I am high as freak." They almost never remember it afterward. Two of my fave, both patients coming out of anesthesia. Am I in hell? I responded, "No, you're not, you're just in recovery." That sounds like something the devil would say. Count backwards from 100 to prove it. Or the one who stroked my unshaved arm while I was trying to keep him from pulling at his 4, and muttered, "You'd make such a great carpet." ETA yikes, you people really like hairy arm carpets. Not anesthesia, but patient was heavily sedated in ICU, nurse gave an enema, half-conscious response, "Honey, you know I don't like it that way." I have a similar story. Colonoscopy. Very prim and proper lady under sedation. As the scope was introduced, she exclaimed, "Ew. Darling, you said you wouldn't do that anymore." In high school I had a reconstructive surgery on my knee as I tore my ACL and meniscus in a sports injury. After the surgery I woke up in post-op, which was a fairly large room with probably 6 to 7 other patients in beds waiting to become conscious again. I was lying there all groggy and confused when 2 nurses walked over pushing one of those carts with a computer on it. They stood over me and were typing into the computer when one nurse said to the other in a sort of frantic whisper, "We've got to plug this thing in or this one is going to die." Naturally, semi-conscious me thought that the thing was me and I started to incoherently yell for the nurses to unplug whatever they needed to in order to find an outlet to keep me alive. Turns out it was the battery on the laptop that was going to die. Apparently the death rate for an ACL repair is pretty low. After getting my wisdom teeth removed I looked at my mother-in-law and said, "How did you get on my rocket ship?" During my wisdom teeth surgery they were playing music, and Billie Jean comes on. I said glad Michael Jackson could join us, and that was the last thing I remember. Me after getting my wisdom teeth taken out. Nurse warned my mom that I'd probably be saying some crazy stuff until I came down fully, which I thought was total bull, as I was super lucid. Felt like I could walk around fine, and was slightly annoyed, but understood when they loaded me in the wheelchair. They clearly told me that I couldn't eat solid food, how to treat the massive holes in my gums, etc. However, I was craving a Pop-Tart, like needed one ASAP, mouth drooling, probably actually bleeding, but whatever, and having in-depth fantasies of going to town on the largest pack I could find. Quite conveniently in the car on the way home, I discovered nothing else but a cookies and cream Pop-Tart pack. I'm seriously making sweet mouth love to this pastry, never happier, until I remember I'm not supposed to eat solid foods. I shamefully tell my mom the news, and that she has to take my brief, but delicious love away from me. I specifically remember saying, "It's for the greater good." So I'm trying to hand her my Pop-Tart from the back seat, while she's driving on the highway no less, when I realize the Pop-Tart isn't there. The Pop-Tart never existed, besides in my mind. She says, "Okay, Tolkien, I got it honey," and I reply, "The Pop-Tart was fake, wasn't it?" I giggled for a bit, then went back to doing whatever the hell I wanted in my head. Fun times, 10/10 would do again. Not an anesthesiologist, but my husband kept telling the medical staff after his procedure that it's okay, my wife's a doctor. She knows what you're talking about. I'm a lawyer. When I was about to go out for surgery, they were strapping me down, and told me it was so that I don't fall off the table. My last words were, "It's okay, 5 seconds rule." I was the patient. After I had my wisdom teeth removed, I remembered trying to drink some water, spilling it all over myself, and then crying, asking who took my water. I went under for a nasal canal surgery, and apparently after the surgery I was holding the nurse's hand and repeating, "I love you, don't leave me," over and over. My husband went under last year, and once he woke up, by appearances he was as sober as a church mouse. Walking, asking serious questions of the doctor, apparently no issues are all. He remembered the procedure and described it to me in detail. I figured he just never went completely under. He was craving Chinese food, and nothing would do except for buffet, so we headed down and loaded up our first load of plates. Evidently, he actually woke up from the anesthesia at the buffet. As far as he remembers, he was put under and woke up in front of a plate of chicken teriyaki on a stick. I was given a relaxer prior to colonoscopy and was rolled into the room. Doctor asked me what I had done that weekend. I said I went to the MN State Fair. Oh, she says, eat anything interesting. I said, why don't you tell me? No laughter whatever in the room. And then I was out. I swear she gave an extra shove because I half woke up during the procedure and remember groaning. My cousin had a similar experience before his colonoscopy. They gave him the relaxer and he then started calling his gown his dress and kept trying to cover his butt because it's not time for his close-up yet. I had a patient start a joke before surgery and finish it when they woke up without prompting. I can just imagine it going like, what do you call a guy W a rubber toe? Hours later, Roberto. Last year they were knocking me out for a colonoscopy. It was the third time I had been put under in a year. As such, I had a curiosity. I had heard that when they knock you out you are still awake for a while, you just don't remember. So in the spirit of science I proposed to test with the anesthesiologist. When she started the medicine I would begin counting backward. When I would wake up we would compare what I remembered to what she observed. Plunger down, 99, 98, 97, I remembered nothing more. Minutes later I awoke. The anesthesiologist espied me and came over quickly. What did you remember? She asked. 97. She began laughing. You got down to 7.